Hey everyone, it's Olivia here, aka Story Minded, and I just really wanted to do a quick book recommendation video. I've just finished The Versions of Us. This was a really beautiful novel written by Laura Bennett. It's one of her debut, it is her debut novel. And the sort of concept behind it is something that I find really interesting. It's all about the what if moment. So events happen in our lives and they could happen in a million possible different ways, but the way they play out can completely change everything, and it's about a single moment that leads to 3 different potential relationships. So the story starts off referring to Eva's parents meeting and Jim being born, although it doesn't actually say his name. And the story is split into 3 parts, and then there are 3 versions of the same story, and there are sort of the same characters recur throughout all of them. Although in version 2 we sort of meet later on a sort of new character, but it's sort of all about what if this moment didn't happen, or what if it played out in a different way. And it was such a beautiful novel, and it really messes with your emotions in a way, because things happen so differently, and there are like moments when I was reading and I was like, why did this have to happen? And you don't really know who to root for. You don't know, you're almost left not knowing what version was the best. But I sort of think that's the whole point. Like, in each of the versions they do find happiness in their own way, but there are moments where you're just like, no, this is not meant to happen, and you feel very betrayed when you read this book. But it was just, it was so well written, and it was just lovely. It had a really lovely flow to it. It breaks your heart like over and over, and I couldn't put it down really. I was obviously busy every now and again, but each time I picked it up, I just needed to keep reading to find out. And I love how you've got like version 1, version 2, version 3, and it's really clearly labelled, so you don't exactly get lost. Sometimes when you've read it for quite a while, you're like, oh, hang on, what's happened, what hasn't happened. But I have a feeling like it's one that if you ever decide to reread, you'll probably notice so many more things than you did the first time, like with any book. But I think especially for this type, because the versions are so subtly done and they're very different in their own ways, and yet there's like parallels and similarities that happen. So I really recommend it. It was a really lovely read, and this leads me on to obviously my next sort of plan for my channel. I'm going to be reading a book, but actually sort of reading it aloud, called Grammar for Grown-Ups, which I'm hoping is going to sort of help that technical side of my writing, and hopefully help anyone who stumbles across it as well. So I'm going to be doing that as a series, but rather than reading it all through and then trying to summarise it, I'll actually have it as a separate playlist, and I'll have it as its own separate series. So anyway, if anyone's watched this, thank you, and this book is beautiful. Buy it, please. Bye.